Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. On this episode, I was really excited to have on Brett Farmiloe. Now, Brett is the founder of Featured.com, which is becoming a very popular PR platform that I personally use and have had success with. So in this episode, we talked about why Featured is better than the competition, the state of digital PR and SEO right now, AI, and so much more. So I hope you enjoy. So Brett, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you just do a quick intro kind of on who you are and what you do with Featured?
Sure. My name is Brett, and I'm the founder of Featured.com, and we are a place where you can get featured in the media.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Featured.com. I've gotten some pretty good placements from it. So my first question to you is, how is Featured different than all the other platforms that continue to pop up, right? We got the Quoteds of the world, Connectively, Prowly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What makes Featured stand out?
Well, I think that if you're an expert looking to share their expertise and get featured in the media, then there's, if we were to ask our customers what makes us different, I think it might just be ease of use of the platform. We've made it really easy in 4 minutes or less to share some insights and be able to get featured in over 1,000 different media outlets. And on the publisher side, if you're looking to get content for your website, there's a few different content formats that we've made it really easy for Featured to help support and provide high quality content to publishers. There's essentially Q&A articles, which are expert roundups where a publisher can ask a question and receive a full-length article that features expert insights. So if you're running a blog, if you have a website, if you're a publisher looking to support your site with some expert written content, we've made that pretty easy.
Yeah, and I'm in the marketing and AI world, but it seems like the more I get back in here, I see more questions from more credible sources popping up, right? With GoDaddy, Forbes. I mean, how are you getting all these people to join your platform?
Well, we're almost 3 years into our journey, and I think that whenever you're starting a marketplace, there's a hard side to the marketplace, and for that, publishers are the hard side. So I think that it's just been a grind and a journey and developing relationships with journalists and with publishers. And, it's really the proof of concept as well. Like, there's no cost to receiving this content. You're able to ask a question, see what comes back. There's no obligation to publish. And so I think that we've just won over publishers time and time again with the quality of the content.
Yeah, and keep doing what you're doing. I'll keep sticking with Featured for sure. So let me ask you this, Brett. Why is a company, I guess, better off paying for Featured for that? I think it's like a $90 or $100 a month price point versus hiring a digital PR agency just to manage everything for them.
Yeah, I think that, first of all, to clarify pricing, so it's a freemium model where you could answer up to 3 questions a month at no cost. And then if you want unlimited answer submissions, those plans start at $39 a month.
Okay.
So pretty advantageous in that, very price friendly. Probably another difference between us and other platforms. And then I think that, having ran a marketing agency for 10 years before founding Featured and knowing pretty well why a client would hire an agency, we've made it really, really simple to do it yourself. But the fact of the matter is most businesses are really strapped for time. And so that's when they would potentially, hire an agency to help manage their digital presence. No matter how easy we can make it, there's still an accountability factor where an agency can help push things across the finish line.
I'm going to be honest, too. There's so many digital PR agencies out there that are smoke and mirrors, charging $5 to $10 a month, if not more than that, for 50, 60 DR links that don't move the needle. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Just use Featured.com,
There's more marketing agencies and coffee shops in the United States. And,
yeah, that's insane.
That was one
We're
of the
due for a cleanse.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why, I sold the agency and recognized a need where, most agencies, like to your point, that's the hardest thing to do is to get placements at scale in a repeatable, scalable fashion. And so for an agency to be able to build a service confidently and make a profit, there's very limited options in the marketplace to do that. So, that was one of the inspirations for founding it.
Completely agree. So I believe that digital PR is actually a requirement for SEO success anymore with all these algorithm updates that Google keeps pushing out. So what do you say from someone who maybe refuses to invest in digital PR and rather allocate their marketing dollars somewhere else?
I got no problem with it. I think that marketing people and business owners know their business best, and with the number of marketing channels that are out there today, you got to find what works best for your business. And so I think that the thing that I would encourage any business to do is try it. Execute a strategy, measure it, see what works, what doesn't, and then double down on the stuff that does work. And so if you're doing things like search engine optimization or just validating public relations to see if that moves the needle, then it's going to work very, very well for some businesses, and then some others you might find more success in other tactics.
Yeah, and a lot of my background stems from SEO. And when I first started getting into digital PR, what I realized from these clients paying a lot of money to get featured is they're more for almost, I hate to say it this way, but like the ego strokes. And oh my God, look at, we got in Fox News, we got in Forbes. They don't understand the SEO benefits behind the scenes of an 80 DR do follow relevant link. Those stack up over time and really boost your SEO presence. And I think that's a very important component to digital PR that a lot of people aren't aware of.
Yeah, if you just break down what you just said, and anyone listening, an 80 DR do follow, you lost me for 80% of the population.
I got a pretty technical audience. So.
But yeah, to your point, for anyone who's selling services and things like that, that's how I would say the majority of people do think, that they're looking for the logo that they could put on their website or on their LinkedIn to say as featured in, and put a logo on there. And there's many different ways that we've seen businesses leverage those placements beyond the SEO side of things with sales outreach, with email signatures, with all types of things that help validate the credibility. Because even to that line that I said about there's more marketing agencies and coffee shops in the U.S., you think about any industry, any kind of business, and how they're looking to differentiate themselves, you've got to have the credibility to stand behind a service, and oftentimes media placements can help support that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're also going through a new wave of SEO right now through LLMs with this Search GPT update I'm sure you're familiar with. I honestly believe that brand mentions and backlinks will be more important and carry more weight when this new phase of SEO comes out. What are your thoughts on that?
I've believed that for years. Like I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, and here there's Waymos. There's a lot of self-driving cars that are out here that don't have a driver, and they're run by Google. And if they could operate a fleet of 1,000 self-driving cars in AZ, then they could definitely tell when there's a unlinked mention, a branded mention in an article, and how that should weigh in terms of where they're ranking companies in search results. So yeah, I think for years I've always been a big proponent of it doesn't really matter if there's a link attached to it as long as it's a prominent mention and it's attached to some relevant content.
Yeah, I also want to hear your take, though, on the quality versus quantity when it comes to media placements, all right? Because someone could just say, well, I want to get on as many sites as possible. I don't care the DRDA. I don't care what it is, how relevant it is. What are your thoughts on the quality versus quantity argument when it comes to digital PR?
I think that I would lean more towards the quality side of things. And what I would mean by quality isn't necessarily that you got placed on Forbes. It's that you got placed in some content in an article in a context that relates to your business. Because I think ultimately when you're trying to determine as a search engine what a business is about, what they're an expert in, all those different things, I think that the context of the article matters a lot. And so if you're on Forbes versus some niche site that's about your industry, I would lean more towards the industry type of things and look at stuff like domain rating and say, okay, Forbes is a 93 domain rating and this other niche site is a 13, but that niche site might not only help indicate and communicate to search engines what your business is about, but it's also going to reach your prospective readers and your target audience. So I think I would lean more towards quality.
Yeah, link relevance is really important too. So let's say someone listening is using featured, or they might look into featured, or using quoted, something of that nature. What are some tips and tricks that you can provide for someone who's trying to fill out responses and get featured in the media versus the 50 to 100 other people that are replying to the same question? What are some tips and tricks to get you noticed versus everyone else?
I think that the first one is piggybacking off of the last thing we were just talking about with quality over quantity, and everyone's an expert in something. And if you're answering the questions that you're a true expert in, then you're going to have more success. And so platforms like ours, we're trying to determine how to display questions to the right people, and we're looking at different signals like search, like job titles, like company, like the meta descriptions within that company, all these different things that would indicate that that person may have qualifications to answer a question. And so if you reverse engineer it from how we're approaching it, and you're thinking about, well, how is a journalist going to perceive my answer based off of my credentials? That's what I think is first and most important. So for anyone using Featured, what I would encourage you to do is go sign up for a free account, go to alerts, input your keywords, input your expertise, and then we'll notify you with an email when there's a question that comes along that you're going to have a really high success rate on. And that way you're maximizing your time and achieving those placements.
Yeah, for me, I'm getting a lot of wins through like personal stories and quantifiable data. Or not if it's like approximately, right? I don't know the exact conversion rate. If I say between 5 or 10% conversion rate in this email campaign, I found that stuff like that tends to work just saying this worked well, right?
Yeah, so that's table stakes of just like focus on your expertise. And then if you break it down to the second component that we're going to look at, the answer itself, if you we've seen some really cool things from users where, originally when I was starting this, we looked at different SEO tools out there that would look at like the top 30 search results and then have a checklist of items of like the baseline of stuff that you should talk about. And then all those different checklist items and figuring out, okay, what should you talk about from an answer perspective? So generally another tip that we offered users really early on was like, think about like, the very first thing that you think about when you're going to go answer something is also what like 50 other people thought about. So go like 2 levels deeper and then focus on that one thing and then add your personal experience so that it differentiates itself within a journalist's inbox.
For sure. And then you get AI into the mix. So I'm actually going to transition into some AI questions here too. So as a digital PR tool, Brett, how do you guys balance like the use of AI responses and like there's so much AI going on now with responses and personally speaking, I use Claude projects and custom GPTs to help me with my responses on Featured. How do you guys balance all of this AI versus like what's real, what's not, etc.?
We try to stay out of it. So I think that's the shortest answer, and we try to shift responsibilities on both sides of the marketplace. So for me personally, we try to get in the battle with different tools and technologies that would identify AI and then mark those. And it was a really hairy place to be in because sometimes you would flag something and you would go to the user and they would say, look, like I could literally get on a screen share and type this answer out with you and show you that it's not AI. And then on the flip side, you would have some stuff that would slip through. And so the detection tools are really, really difficult, and it's going to get more increasingly difficult. So the stance that we've taken is if you are willing to put your digital signature on an answer, meaning that however you've generated it, you're willing to attach your name and likeness to that answer, that's step one. And then ultimately you have to have a filter from a publisher perspective to take a look at it, verify that what's been said. You mentioned, maybe you said, hey, we had a 5 to 10% conversion increase on this particular email campaign. It's a journalist's job to verify that information before it ultimately goes live. So for us as a platform, it's taken a neutral stance and saying, we know this is happening, but we're going to put it on both sides to really make sure that it's high quality.
And I respect you for that, which is why I'm a bigger advocate of Featured over the other ones. We had discovery calls. I won't name the names on here, but it's one of your big competitors, and the guy was so anti-AI. He's like, if you use AI in your response, we're banning you, this and that. I'm like, good luck, bro, because this is going to take off right now, and I'm going to head over to Featured and tell everyone I know to do the same thing because you're not going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing I'm a huge proponent of AI. Like, we're partners with NVIDIA and with Google and with OpenAI. We've been for a while. And going back to the core reason of why we exist, our vision statement is to unlock new knowledge. And the limitation that I view it through is that time is the biggest limiting factor. Like, how can you share knowledge consistently without, still having to run a business and do what you do? And so AI is a great way to essentially take a personalized knowledge base and get it to a place where it's ready to submit, and you can put your extra piece of knowledge onto it and to submit it. But again, you got to have the guardrails to make sure that it's good.
Completely agree. So I want to talk a little about AI, what you guys are doing internally at Featured.com. How are you guys using AI for what you're doing? Like, what are some tools and processes that you have going on?
So we've had it at the core of Featured, probably even before it started to take place. I remember back in the day when I was running my agency, we were early adopters of Jarvis.
Jasper.
Jasper. Jasper. So
it was Jarvis. Disney sued him.
Yeah. So we were using Jasper back in the day, Jarvis. And today, basically we're using AI to enhance a lot of our workflows. So we know that within the industry, speed is often an issue where the first, great quote that comes into a journalist is the one that gets used. And so for us, we receive so many different answers to questions that we've got to use AI to help surface the insights that matter, and also ask the right questions to the right people. And so we're using AI to determine what questions to ask, and then also which answers to ultimately pass on.
Yeah, for sure. So just last one on AI here. Looking ahead, I guess, in the next year, 2, 3 years, something like that, what are some big emerging trends that you see happening in the world with digital PR, AI, SEO? I guess, what impact do you think this all has?
Yeah, it has a transformational impact, and I'm a little worried. I'm worried in the sense that we mentioned that our platform has some guardrails and there's responsibilities, but it still has the assumption that those responsibilities will be withheld. And so the reason why I'm worried is because there's some pretty transformational shifts that are happening within the media landscape on the business side of things that would jeopardize the ability to withhold those responsibilities. So I think that we're going to see some real disruption within media. We're already seeing a huge disruption. That's not anything new. Same thing on the marketing side of things. So I'm worried overall. Like, I'm worried on the publishing side of things. I'm worried about how publishers are impacted by shifts in the search landscape and in terms of the zero-click type of environment that we're living in. And the thing that I think holds true for businesses and for people who have knowledge to share is that that's still going to be incredibly valuable, if not more valuable in the future, because how are you going to differentiate from a reader perspective what's been written by AI and what's been written by a human? And so I think that your name and likeness and your expertise and your personal brand is going to become incredibly valuable, because if you're willing to attach yourself to an insight, that's what readers want. They want to be able to learn from a person that has the expertise and real world experience versus something that's generative.
Completely agree, which is why I'm bullish on long form video content like I'm doing right now, and also YouTube on my AI channel, where it's actually me talking versus you go to an article, I don't care what website it is, the first thing that comes to my mind and a lot of others was this AI, right? If I'm listening to this podcast episode, you're not really, I hope you're not really thinking that right now.
Yeah, definitely. We almost haven't even started the ball game on AI and video. Like, the Sora demo came out I don't know, a year ago, something like
Facebook
that.
Just came out with a big one about a month ago.
Yeah, and we can't use it yet. Sora came out and it's like, oh my gosh, look at the future, and the future hasn't even arrived yet. So there's a lot of really powerful things that I think will come if we're talking again in 26, 27, things like that.
Yeah, Runway Gen 3 I think is the best one out there right now for video, at least from what I understand.
Hey man, you're deep into it.
I got an AI YouTube channel. You got to look me up after this, man. I cover all this stuff.
Awesome.
So I want to talk about marketing quacks now, Brett. This is the Marketing Quacks podcast after all. So if you had to define a marketing quack in the world of SEO and PR, what would that be for you?
I'm not sure what a marketing quack is.
So quack meaning in medical, like a quack doctor. So in marketing, this is why I titled Marketing Quacks, like people that do a lot of gimmicks and tricks that fool people. What would that be for you? Something that just makes your blood boil in marketing.
Okay, so I don't know. Right now it's LinkedIn, man. I'm tired of the LinkedIn game of everyone getting on there and talking and feeling like they got to post every day.
You talking like AI LinkedIn, like salesy LinkedIn? Like, what about it?
Just like anyone who just, there's a lot of blocks that I've had to issue on LinkedIn's newsfeed because, I think that a lot of business leaders, and for its part, LinkedIn's been incredibly effective from a marketing perspective, and that's just caused a lot of people to get on there and to use themselves as their best marketing tactic. And so I think that people just kind of overdoing it a little bit, to be frank. It's a daily post, and because they signed up with some agency and they, that's one of their deliverables. But I think that that's been a little overdone. So if there's anything that I'd be like a quack, that might be it.
It's just the cookie cutter BS content I'm sure you're referring to. There's no actual depth to what they're saying or case studies or examples, things like that.
There's some stuff, it's just not for me.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. So cool. This has been fun, Brett. I appreciate your time. Do you have just any final notes on this episode on feature, digital PR, anything we talked about?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think that for anyone looking to experiment, you could go to feature.com. You could sign up for a free account. You could answer a question and see what happens. I think that appreciate the time, appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more.
For sure. Where can people find you online to learn more?
You could email me, brett@feature.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, not posting my status updates, but instead very responsive there. So yeah, feel free to connect.
Cool. Well, Brett, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. Be sure to tune in again next time.
You got it. Thanks.